And that's some images from, someone who visits Athens can see in the streets people waiting for trucks to get their food because they have no other way of getting what they need. So we took over the building. This is mostly EIT workers, and gradually people are coming into our headquarters. EIT was broadcasting for 75 continuous years. That's a very famous song in Greece. It was sung in remembrance of the dictatorship years in Greece. The general meaning of its lyrics is, please, sun and the winds of Greece, don't forget that my country while being into a dictatorship regime. He used to be a veteran partisan during the Second World War, and he was the guy that went up to Acropolis and took down the Nazi flag during the Nazi occupation. That's me. This is one of our orchestras. All together, it says. It is estimated that in the first 10 days, more than 200,000 people came to our headquarters in the northern part of Athens for support, etc. And double this number all over Greece. So, and of course it's being continued at the moment. So the main question is, why closing down ERT? I mean, financially it was doing okay, better than okay, especially those under these austerity measures. And as it seemed, it had the public support at the end. Why do it? And as I said, we have to remember that this is not an administrative or management decision. It couldn't be. I mean, it's the public broadcaster. This is a political decision, and we have to see it within the greater political frame that is being set up in Greece for the last period. So many analysts and many experts are concluding on the following: that the Prime Minister wanted an early election, that the media moguls wanted out of the new digital map competition, and that the government wanted a completely controlled public broadcaster. What they get, what did they achieve their goals? Did they achieve what they were looking for? So in the aftermath of that political move by the government, so that Greece didn't have an early election after all, but the minor coalition party that was in the three-party coalition government left the government, and the government became more cohesive nevertheless, and more austerity hardline. So the Prime Minister didn't have an early election, but now it has a very strong pro-austerity, clearly pro-austerity, and in a hardline pro-austerity government. In the competition for the new digital map in Greece, where the new digital multiplex frequencies will be allocated to the media companies operating in Greece, the media moguls are getting 2 extra frequencies, which are coming out of the public broadcasters' share. So now, instead of 2, they have 4, and the public broadcaster, instead of 4 digital frequencies, it will have only 2. Also, they relieved from their obligation to set up their own digital infrastructure all over Greece, which is rolled on the public broadcaster to do it, and of course the local authorities. So they're getting extra frequencies, and they don't have to pay anything for transmitters, etc. And the government set up a new service, an interim service, which claimed to be a public broadcaster, and of course it's operating from the studios of the private media owners and from the Ministry of Information. So as you understand, it's a completely controlled medium, both in radio and in television. So what did we do in those 5 months? The people that remained and give this fight until now, occupying the buildings all over Greece and keep broadcasting our programs. We worked, and we worked as professionals, as citizens as well, and as activists. We worked hard and we worked differently. We operated two TV channels, 2 television channels, 15 out of the 19 regional radio stations, and 2 national radio stations. We got ourselves satellite space in order to support our signal all over Greece, and we did that twice because the government managed to convince the companies to cancel our contracts with providing us with satellite space. We organize ourselves differently. We formed committees almost about everything. We invited the public to come and make suggestions to us, and we listened. We made new TV shows focused on social issues. We reformed our news bulletins, making them longer, more inclusive, investigative, and more informative. We rebranded our radio shows format from specialized radios, which are the trend in Greece for almost 20 plus years. We went back to the general interest radio format, but with a lot of fresh ideas. Our listeners contributed actively. Some of them became regular contributors in providing us with news and analysis. People that never before had the opportunity to be in front of a microphone or in front of the camera took their chance, and let me tell you, they excelled. All of them, not most of them. Many of our solidarios, the people that were coming from the public and they remained in the struggle and they were helping us, they helped us with everyday production. Filmmakers, musicians, unemployed journalists, photographers, unemployed online editors, they all helped, they all did their part and in everyday production. And many of us were trained and retrained on new or different things. We took this opportunity to learn more things about our job, and of course, because we had to contribute on every aspect of everyday production of television and radio, we have to train ourselves in things that we didn't know before. So, what we achieved. We achieved 20 million audience in 4 months. That's twice the size of Greece. We have around 600,000 people online, listeners and viewers. Our new website, www.topen.com, entered the Greek top 20 in 2 months' time. The broadcast from the Athens Polytechnic between the 14th and the 17th of November amassed about 1.7 million listeners online, and it was a very special broadcast because the Athens Polytechnic was the center of the uprising against the dictatorship in 1973. So it was a very symbolic move, and for us it was very emotional to be there and under the threat of the police that they will come and arrest us. And our online audience just raised out of the roof by 1.7 million. So, on the 7th of November, after almost 5 months, the police came on our door, and as you can see, this is early in the morning. This is our security cameras. It's about 4 o'clock in the morning. The police entered the premises of ERT. They stormed in, they cut through the fence over there. You see them coming, just run this a bit. Very clearly. They brought in 12 platoons of police, special armed forces, their own technicians, policemen in plain clothes, etc. They stormed the building, they made a sweep floor by floor, and they took us out. And the government thought that by doing this, the rest of our colleagues will just give up and they will abandon their posts and the places in the rest of Greece, but that didn't happen at the end. I was that night I was inside the building, and it happened for me to be the last one on the microphones of our radio, and I felt it was like my duty to inform once again the public of what was going on, and so that the police had finally come to take us out. And that brought another wave of support towards, sorry. But that didn't stop us at all. We were not disheartened, maybe disappointed, maybe frustrated. But we decided that we'll continue. And in Athens, we did something that I think is it's a record for any place in Europe, to have a news bulletin broadcasted in the middle of a road with the police on our backs. We'll see, you'll see now. We are all here. It's such a surreal image. I mean, it's the main news bulletin of ERT that today is heard. And Aran was saying the news. So, what about now? We're still operating one television station in Salonika, which is the second major city in Athens. We're still operating our 15 out of 19 regional radio stations. We're supporting our colleagues all over Greece by having people from Athens going in different places and offering the services to our colleagues there, helping them, technicians, administrative staff, journalists, etc. And the past 3-4 days, we're in a series of talks and general assemblies to determine if we're going to form a cooperative as ERT workers to keep the public broadcaster alive and running with everything we have. The public saw that it considered us to be the real public broadcaster in Greece. It supported us. It saw that by viewing our news bulletins, listening to our radio shows, and of course coming to every action that we call the public to support us too. And this means a great deal to us. We couldn't have made it without the public. It's because we changed the way we tell the news. It's because we call the public to contribute to that. Is how we gain the support. The public broadcaster in Greece was no exception with other public broadcasters all over Europe. It didn't have such a good name, you know. It was deemed as obsolete, like a dinosaur of media, and sometimes the government voice. But our main decision, especially in the journalistic part and how we said the news, was one. It was just one, and it was quite plain and simple. We said that in Greece, at the moment, there are two realities. It's the reality that the people live every day. It's dark and it's grim and it's hard. It's full of unemployment and people starving and don't have the means and out of hope. And on the other hand, it's this reality that everybody watches on the main news of the commercial stations, that this is the only way out of the austerity, that there is light at the end of the tunnel, and be patient, everybody. You'll reap the rewards very soon. And we said that this cannot be anymore, and we're not in this position to bridge this gap. We have to eliminate this gap and get the reality that we all experience every day on the screens, on the TV sets, and on the radios of the people. And we started doing that. And once we started doing that, the audience started supporting us more and more. And of course, we couldn't do it on our own. We needed the audience. We needed their ideas, their opinions. We invited them to our shows, radio and television. They made suggestions. We listened. We interacted as never before. And the people were telling us that now you are a true public broadcaster. And to us it felt that now we were fulfilling our purpose and role, especially in a country in crisis, because no one else will do it, you know. The commercial stations have businessmen running them, and they care about profit, and that's just normal, it's logic. They don't care about culture or quality entertainment or impartiality in news. They just want to have their opinion heard out there, and most of the times their opinion is closely interconnected with the interests of the government. But a public broadcaster must be the broadcaster that will go down to the people and hear the people and voice their voice. And this is what we kept on doing for 5 months. This is what we are still doing right now. Of course, it's a very, very difficult situation because we're not getting paid. No money are coming from anywhere. We're just receiving an unemployment benefit and what the public is giving us. And of course, our unions supporting with everything they have. but to us this is a fight worth fighting, and we're very determined. We've proven to be too hard to die. ERT has proven that is too hard to die, and I believe we're gonna succeed in what we're doing, and hopefully this model that we're going forward for the new public broadcaster will be the model that will prevail in the end.
Hvala, Nikola, za ten govor. Kakšno vprašanje mogoče, preden se premaknemo na kavico?
First of all, Nicholas, it's an honor having you here, and I think I can say that we all wholeheartedly support your struggle. Now, I was wondering, did the state grant you, I have two questions, did they grant you any licenses? I imagine that they did. That's my first question. And the second question is, to what extent were those efforts that the state enacted upon you, to what extent were they in tune with the Troika? You know, did they act on their own? Was the European Commission or Troika just an excuse? You know? So.
We don't have any license by anyone. Of course, not a license by the government. Actually, the government tries daily to shut us down. They go into our transmitters, they put the flags, we go back in, we put the flags back in, and we're transmitting again, etc. As I said, there was great pressure from Troika, and still is in Greece. They want layoffs. Every month they want more layoffs. By the mid-2014, they want 25,000 people out of job in the public sector. And by the end of 2013, they're requiring 5,000 people out of the public sector. And the government told them that, okay, 2,500 are out of job, and it meant us, ERT, although we're not public servants, because we're not funded by the state, we're funded by the electricity bills, but you know, this is what they're telling the Troika, and the Troika accepts that. The Troika is the messenger of bad news wherever it goes. It doesn't bring any viable plan for any country to overcome its problems. Troika is not there to help, at least not the people. It's there to help just a small part that are not ordinary people. There might be businessmen, there might be politicians, there might be some other people that have highly interests, but not the people. But at the end, it's the government that they decide whether to follow or not to follow the instructions of Troika, whether to say no or just go down and do what they're told to do. And in this case, the government decided that it would go down the path of Troika, and it has done that with ERT, with the electricity company, the water company, the railways, schools, clinics, hospitals. It's the same situation. It's just that the peak was ERT, because it was the first time that any government under the Troika rule decided to shut down just like that public service and just stop it. It's like going to the railways and say, okay, there will be no trains tomorrow, just like that. But of course, with information, with news, with culture, it has a different significance to the people. And I think that's why the people reacted so much, because they remember times that Greece had another very strict regime, the dictatorship, 30 years ago, and they said, oh, is it happening again? What they're doing? Is going to be only the private media owners right now, and there's going to be no public broadcaster? I mean, it wasn't the best, but it proven ERT that it can be better. The private media stations are not the best and are not willing to get better. They're very happy with what they're doing. And of course, they are the only option right now in Greece.
Še kakšno vprašanje mogoče?
Yeah, I'm wondering how many of your colleagues joined this campaign? All of them or part of them? And what do you think what will happen when you, public pastor, I think that yeah, what will happen? Do you think some of your old colleagues will go there because of course there will be salaries and things like that?
Well, out of the 2,600, we estimate that we are actively producing a program about 700 of us. 600 went over to the government station. Yes, already. But they don't have any permanent contracts, they don't have any insurance, they only have 2-month contracts. And that's it. They traded 5 for a 2-month contract, a 2-month salary. The rest are missing, to be honest. I mean, the rest 1,200 are missing. Some of them migrated, some of them are depressed, really, and clinically depressed. I mean. And they're facing, psychological problems. Some of them are changed profession, but no one really knows what they're doing. The very, very sad fact of these 5 months is that we already lost 4 of our colleagues who are dead, either by suicide or. So this is a heavy toll. This is a heavy toll on ERT, and we're already paying a heavy toll as a society in Greece. Because this is a scenario that's happening everywhere, not in such an extreme way as it happened in ERT, but it's happening everywhere. And it's not only Greece. Spain is the same thing. 30,000 people are losing their homes every month. Portugal is the same thing. Ireland experiences the same. And even countries that are not in the strict Troika rule, but the governments follow some of the Troika policies, experience the same thing. For example, in the Netherlands, the public broadcaster has 38% of the market share, which is huge. It's probably the highest in all of Europe, or one of the highest. But there, the government decided that it would cut the personnel by 60%. No one can feel safe, whether you have large audience or small audience. It's not a matter of audience or a matter of quality. It's a matter of an attack to the public service. They want to have a smaller or not at all a public service. And this is evident in this. So the new public broadcaster, they claim to be ready sometime around March, but no one knows at the moment.
Hello. First question, did you keep the electricity bill part for the broadcaster? So they just shut the broadcaster down and kept the money?
Yeah.
But yeah, my second question would be, the people that remain and that are running these kind of pirate stations, right? Do you have a plan or a strategy? Like what do you want to achieve? Not in terms of informing the public, but in the long run.
This is why we're thinking of forming a cooperative. We think that the cooperative will help us in 3 ways. First of all, keep the spirit of ERT alive, and the ERT is a public broadcaster, and in much of the society, it's their public broadcaster that they have shown this to us. So keep the spirit of ERT alive. Keep our people together, united, under one umbrella, under the cooperative umbrella. And of course, if things changes in Greece, we would have a well-documented and well-experienced model to put out there as a new public broadcaster. And if things won't change, then we will have a cooperative. But things now in Greece are so fluid in terms of politics. No one knows what can happen tomorrow. And it's very important for us to keep the spirit of the public broadcaster alive, and especially the way it is now, because we feel that the public needs it. It's very useful at the moment to the society, and I think it's our obligation and it's our duty to do that.
You mentioned 20 million people that are watching your programs or listening to them. Who are they? Where are they from?
90% are from Greece.
But it's, sorry, you said it's twice the size
Yeah,
of
it's
Greece.
combined listeners and viewers.
Okay. Are you also thinking of gathering support from abroad, maybe financial funding from, I don't know, from Europe, from the people who no, from independent organizations in Europe who are in the who are fighting the same fight?
Some people have sent us. We set up an account, a banking account, for people to put some money as a solidarity to us. So we have a strike fund. But in order to do that in a permanent basis and ask for people to, for a, let's say, a new TV license for us, we need to set up an organization that will be able, and legally, and financially, and for taxations and whatever, I don't know, completely the law, to do that. So this is why we're discussing how we will be proceeding from now on. But we need that. Many unions have stood by our side, both financially and in other ways, and they're still doing this.